no day but today. What if we lived like that? Could we? Could we live like that? Like, I spend my life planning. How many people have a calendar, right? How many people live on their calendar, right? And how much planning and structure comes in to making this happen every Sunday, right? There's 4 of us that work in the office all week to make everything happen here, plus the band and the music department and the volunteers. No day but today. Well, today's a great day to be the only day, right? Because it's gorgeous out and because we're all together. How is it we can live with the energy of radical acceptance, radical possibility, and radical appreciation for everything that's going on? You know, I just spent 9 days in Ojai, California, at Byron Katie's School for the Work, where all we did for 9 days when we weren't in silence was doing judge your neighbor worksheets. So we got to look at everything in our conscious life that we could possibly imagine that we didn't like. And just in case we were there feeling too good, one day we woke up and they deprived us food. An unannounced fast that happened for indeterminate amount of time. So it was like everything you think you know gets challenged, right? Because life happens, right? Life always changes. So how can we be in today? One of the ways that I have found that works for me, and one of the ways that I want to talk to you about today, is the idea of commitment. That knowing what you're about and what you're seeking, and that seeking is everything. There's a quote from the Gospel of Matthew attributed to Jesus, and it goes, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you." Right? And that quote, for me, has always been so powerful. I remember when I first started to learn affirmative prayer and become a Unity prayer chaplain, this was my go-to phrase. I know that today I have knocked and the door has been flung open. I have sought and I have found. I have asked and I have received tenfold. Right? Knowing that can be put on any prayer. And it takes it out of the future, takes it out of the pain of the past, and brings it to this present moment. It's here. It's now. I am receiving my good. But knowing what you want to ask for, right? Knowing what your dream is, knowing what it is that you're about in this world is essential to the ask, is essential to the knock. It's essential to that door being flung open. I know that all of you can look back on achievements in your life. And in fact, I invite you to pull out your bulletin, and on the back, just write down 2 things. 2 things that you've achieved in your life. What are you most proud of? What are some of the things that you've done? As you do that, I imagine, as it is for me, that each one of those things came with your commitment to the process. And you achieved that success by deciding this is what you were going to do. And your diligence, your fortitude, and your hard work got you there. You know, success all of a sudden seems to be an overnight thing. Someone just burst onto the scene, but we know that there are a multitude of tiny steps, baby steps if it were, that lead up to that miraculous moment when the baby walks, right? But it just doesn't wake up one day and decide to walk. It builds its core strength. It builds its crawling muscles. It builds all those things. And well, the same thing is with us. We must build each step along the way to get to our goal. There's a time element involved. And it's essential that we commit. I talk about it in this community, and I practice it in my life. And I also talk about it in the Absolute Abundance class when we know what that is to commit. In the Absolute Abundance Metamorphosis class, you're asked to commit to tithing 10% of your income for the 10 weeks of the class. And for a lot of people, that's like, right? 10%? The whole 10%? No, not a portion of the 10%, the whole 10% for the 10 weeks that you're in the class. And when I first took a prosperity class and jumped in to do that, I was scared, and I also wasn't making much money. So it was a lot easier to write the check for little amounts. But when you get the big amounts, to write the check for 10% of your good is life-changing, because what it does is challenges every belief you hold that there's not enough. I can't afford to give 10%. I'll give 5. 5 is good enough, right? No, I have too many bills to pay. I can't afford to give to where I'm spiritually fed. Well, when you give with a sense of understanding, when you give in faith, knowing that you can't see past the corner, it's always astonishing what opens up in your life, because you're releasing your tight grip on the universal flow. So this illuminates for me what we truly don't admit we believe, that there's a limited amount of money in the world, and that we have a limited amount of money. Right? If we do believe that there's only one, and that we're all part of the one, that's our first principle that Jeanne mentioned earlier. There's only one power and one presence, God. We are all heir to the abundant universe. And everything it has is ours when we knock, when we ask, when we seek. And part of the commitment in tithing is a demonstration of that seeking. So scan yourself. Notice where you're holding back in your giving. Notice where you're holding back financially and afraid to commit, because that's what's going to be reflected in your life. That which you believe, you will see everywhere. If I was still in the Byron Katie workshop, we'd be writing down right now, I am angry at Reverend Ken because he's talking about money again. Is that true? Yes. Yes, there's some, yeah. But I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about your belief system, or as Martha Creek calls it, your BS. Right? Because your belief system runs your world and your life. Your belief system is the operating system that you're allowing to be your default position. So everyone here has a computer except one, I think. Everybody else have a computer or a smartphone? Right? Two, right? So it comes with an operating system. It comes with a default choice for a web browser. Do you just keep the default, or do you find your own web browser that you like? Right? What I'm asking you today is to commit to your life by choosing. Not the ones your parents put in your head, not the one that society has chosen for you, but to really examine your belief system and see what happens when you shift it. Because I truly do believe this next statement, that with God, all things are possible. Understanding that it's not ego that's driving this conversation. Understanding that when I understand that spirit itself, the power, the miraculous one power of the universe, is in charge, and I can align myself with it. I can align myself with it and co-create the outcome I seek in the present moment. I can't be enlightened tomorrow. I couldn't be enlightened yesterday. Because if I'm not enlightened now, those two things don't exist. Christopher just sang it. There's no past, there's no future. There's only now. That's what we step to into the possibility. Now, I've developed a process of manifesting in my life, and I think it really encapsulates what I go through, and I share it with you here. The steps to manifestation is first is to name and claim your dream. Be bold, audacious, and bold, and brash. And say what it is you want. What is it that you want? Call it out right now. Oh, brash. Boy, you guys have got it. What is it that you want? Call it vibrant health. What else? Happiness. Travel. Well, you're getting that. Financial resources, anyone? Yeah. Abundant life. More love? Anyone for more love? How about peace? Yeah. How about a healthy planet? How about caring for each other? Bold. How about we end the current toxic, misogynistic, hate-filled political discourse in this country? How about, so let's switch, how about everybody has a meal? How about we switch this to the positive? How about we have open, loving, listening, communicative dialogues with each other about where we disagree? How about we respect everyone's opinion? How about we give everyone an equal shot at life, liberty, and happiness? Yeah, not even just the pursuit of it, right? Happiness. So name and claim your dream. Write it down, speak it from the rooftops. A member that came to visit yesterday and was touring our possible new home, Page Street, with me, pointed out to me that this has been my dream for years. And it's true. From the first time I walked into this building, I was like, this is interesting. I've never seen a church building like this before. And it always in the back of my head is, there a possibility that there's a better building for us in San Francisco? No, I'm not saying the Page Street is it, but the idea has brought us to this moment. Am I willing to say there's possibly a better way for us to be in community? And just that exploration is worth standing up and claiming your dream. When I was trying to become a Broadway performer, I would write out my affirmation. I now work in a Broadway show. I now work in a Broadway show. I now make a good living dancing on Broadway is what it morphed to eventually. I now make a great living dancing on Broadway. Well, at the time, my dance classes were on Broadway. The dance studio was on Broadway. And I made a great living. So I could say that. I now make a great living and I dance on Broadway. There was a kernel of truth in the affirmation that allowed me to say it with gusto. I am a great dancer, right? That kind of understanding shifts your limiting beliefs. And that's what affirmations do for us. They corrode our BS belief systems till they no longer stand on their own. So name and claim your dream. Find a way to make it work for yourself. Then take concrete steps. It wasn't just enough to write that I'm a great dancer or that I dance on Broadway. If I never took a dance class, it probably wouldn't have happened, although there have been instances in show business where that would not be true, where you could just make it to the top. But I'd still have to go to the audition. Going to the audition's a concrete step. Sending out your resume is a concrete step. Going to look at a new home is a concrete step. Applying for the job. You must take a real world, material world, relative world, however you want to phrase it, step towards your reality. Meditation is phenomenal. And meditation and prayer will get you really clear on what it is you're naming, claiming, what your dream is and what your focus is. And then you have to put feet to that dream. You have to put energy and physicality behind it to make a difference in this world. As Dean said, we are not these bodies. We are and we're not. There's this divine paradox. But I was watching a video this morning as I was preparing of this gentleman who was describing the passing of his husband. And the moment they had taken off all life support except the ventilator, and he was laying in bed with him, talking to him as he made his transition. And he said, quite remarkably, I was laying there, and then I knew at one moment, even though his body was still moving, he was gone. And he realized then that I'm not this body. There's something more to me. Because the man he loved left, the body that was still breathing because of a machine. But that person was no longer there. And that's the possibility we have to transcend in this moment. We take concrete steps in the physical world while we know there is so much more. There is more than we can ever understand or know. And we share that journey. Like that gentleman had the strength and the tenacity to go through that experience and then found the wisdom to share it, right? So that we can, without dying ourselves, or without having to sit through something that unimaginable, know it before we get there, right? And for those of us who have done that and have witnessed it, we recognize the truth, the power of the belief, and we can share our journey. So wherever it is, from your trying to manifest the right career, manifest the right spouse, to manifest the right job, the right family, every step along the way, there is an opportunity to share what you're working for, because you have no idea who's going to conspire with you. You have no idea what the person sitting next to you might actually be the spouse you're looking for. Or they may know them, right? So when we share our journey, we open up possibilities. We open up the world to conspire with us to have our dreams come true, right? And just one note of caution about that. The scripture also says, do not put your pearls before swine. We all know the people who are toxic in our lives, right? We don't have to share everything with them, right? And I love them, but I'm not going to tell them every part of my journey because I don't want it squelched. It's not that I am in psychological denial of the difficulties or the possibilities that I may encounter along the way, right? No, I'm totally aware of it, but I'm choosing not to give that all my focus. It's equally true. In the Byron Katie work, there's this part where we do turnarounds. How many are familiar with the work of Byron Katie? Fair amount. Good. Well, in Byron Katie's Judge Your Neighbor worksheets, there comes a point where you do turnarounds. So whatever the belief statement was at the beginning, in this case, I'm angry at Reverend Ken because he's talking about money again. I'm angry because we're talking about money again. The reverse of that is I'm happy that we're talking about money again. And your question would be, is there any part of you that's true? Is there any part of you that's happy that we're talking about money again? And then to list them. Why would we be happy to be talking about money or finances? And if you can identify 2 or 3 different ways in which you're happy about that, then you're asked to look at, well, is it equally true that you're happy about talking about money as you're angry about talking about money? So which wolf are you going to feed? The one that makes you happy or the one that makes you angry? Where are you going to put your focus? Where are you going to direct your energy? And it's just an opportunity to be aware that you're holding both beliefs simultaneously. We can hold more than one thought at the same time and one emotion at the same time. Radical, isn't that? We teach our children that, and somehow we forget it as adults when we get stuck into I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm depressed. We can be both at the same time. We can be more. And then the final step is to be open. Chances are it's not going to show up like you believe it's going to. Chances are there's going to be many turns along the way. How many of you have had a direct line in your career? Okay. How many of you have had a direct path in your romantic life? No one? Okay. How many have had a direct and clear vision with your children? Okay. So how many of you have been in more than one church? Right? So be open to how it's going to show up. If we're really going to stay in today, if we're really going to be staying in this moment, and here's the divine paradox again. We're planning for the future. We're making a commitment for what we want to see in our lives. And we have to stay in today, right? So, at Unity San Francisco, we are in this building. And it's wonderful. It has blessed us for 25 years. In Unity San Francisco, we are all together as a family here today. And what a gorgeous group of people you are. And we are all together with people around the world because of innovation and because of the gifts that people have given that allow me and allow all of us to communicate with people on the screen, in their devices around the world. And what's more in store for us? What are we seeking? What is Unity San Francisco's destiny? What is your destiny? Right? You have a hand in determining that. Divine order, as we read earlier, does not mean that everything is scripted or that when something happens that God wanted it that way. All divine order means is that in every moment we are co-creating. So when something happens, we get to choose. Is it equally true I'm happy about this? Or equally true that I'm sad about this? And can it be both? And then to choose how we go forward. So in your bulletin, on your back of your bulletin, you wrote down those things you achieved. Those things you're grateful for. Were they a straight path as well? No. Right? Anybody? Straight path? One shot? Just happened? No. Is that true? Is that absolutely true? And acknowledging, yeah, there was effort. There was effort. And you were in the middle of that. I'm going to pick on you, Laura. When you were in the middle of that, right? You describe it now as hard.
Yeah.
But why were you doing it in the middle of the journey?
Why was I doing what?
So you said it was hard, right? Why were you taking that action? Why were you going through it?
Because I wanted my kids. I loved my kids. And I knew that it was my divine birthright to have my kids with me.
So say that again for the people on the web.
I was going through what was hard because I wanted my kids in my life. I knew it was my divine birthright to have my kids and to be together and to be loved together.
Right.
And so the hardness was just something to go through to get to the freedom
Right.
of the love that we were.
It was not divine order that you were separated. It was your expression of divine order that love reunites you.
Yes, I had no idea why we were separated.
And do we need to know?
I just knew that for me, I had to hold the high thought and go to the next step, no matter how hard or scary or depressing it was, that there was an outcome that I now enjoy every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So we get to work these steps consciously or unconsciously, but my opinion is it always works better if we're doing it consciously. Otherwise, things are just happening to us. In every moment, we can choose. Things may happen to you, and things may happen around you, but the most important thing is what happens within you, within your mind, within your very being. Things may happen to you, and things may happen around you. But the most important thing is what happens within you. I wish I could take credit for it, but it's Eric Butterworth. And Emerson too. Yeah, it's Eric Butterworth on Emerson, as transmitted by Reverend Ken. I'll take that lineage. Thank you. So, in this life and today, you get to choose. You get to choose what you co-create. You get to choose what you want to name and claim. You get to choose what you want to call each moment of your life. And I invite you to be bold, to be audacious, because the quote, boldness has genius and power and magic in it. Begin it now is so true. The universe will conspire to fulfill your dreams when you have the determination and the tenacity and the boldness to step up and say, I am Reverend Ken, and this is the vision I see. I am, and say, prosperous, loved, abundant, successful, peaceful, joy-filled, unstoppable. How about that for an affirmation? I am unstoppable. I am committed. I am committed. If you were to be committed, if you were committed,
there's a thread of that regularly.
I resemble that remark. What is it, if you're going to fill in that blank? I am committed to. Do you know? What is it that you're committed to? If not, I invite you to take that to your meditation and prayer life, to pray with our prayer chaplains today, or to use this meditation time now to understand what our commitment is. Let's take that to our time of meditation.